أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله أما بعد. We're going to look at more into fiqh issues this time. And today is a Friday, the 12th day of Rajab, 1444 years after the hijrah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It also corresponds, I believe, with the 3rd day of February 2023. Rajab is one of the sacred months we have in the Islamic calendar. This month that we are in, that we have 12 days of it, is one of the sacred months in the Islamic calendar. And it's a holy month, but we don't have any specific form of ibadah from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this month. So if you have any other ibadah that you do, you can do more of it, but we don't have any specific form of fasting in the month of Rajab. We don't have any specific form of nafila in the month of Rajab. There is a saying that Isra wal Miraj, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went upstairs, to take salah, it happened in the month of Rajab, even though there are a lot of statement around that. Some say it's Rabiul Awwal, some say it's Ramadan and stuff like that. And so I just wanted us to have a know of Rajab. There's an authentic hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions Rajab as a sacred month, as a holy month. And apart from that, we don't have any other thing concerning the month of Rajab. You can do your Mondays and Thursdays fasting. You can do your 13th, 14th, and 15th day fasting, and that's it. Nothing special about waking up at night in the month of Rajab to pray, because we don't have any information from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sanctioning that. So just by the way, if you have a copy of the book, you can go to page 13. It's still not downloading?
I'm having issues between my devices.
Okay, no problem. We can have today's class, and you take your notes so that after you have access to the packet, you can go over it. So we're going to start from page 13. That's where the book itself starts. In the first few pages, it speaks about the author and then his history and some of the reasons why he wrote the book and stuff like that. But the main gist of the book starts from page 13. It says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammadin Khatamin Nabiyyin wa Imam al-Mursaleen. That Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, all thanks be to Allah Rabbil Alameen, the nourisher of the creations. Wa salatu wa salam, and blessings and salutations be upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Khatamin Nabiyyin, the seal of prophethood, or the seal of the prophets, wa Imam al-Mursaleen, and then the leader of the messengers. We have two words here, the prophets and then messengers. Every messenger is a prophet, but not all prophets are messengers. So there's the hadith in Sunan Abi Dawud that says the Almighty Allah sent 124,000 prophets throughout history. 124,000. And then out of the 124,000, he sent 313 as messengers. The difference between a prophet and a messenger is that the messenger is sent with a book or is sent with a law. And then he is charged with delivering that message. But a prophet is not charged with delivering the message. So for example, Adam alayhi salatu wasalam is a prophet, and some scholars consider him as a messenger too. They say because he was sent to his what? He was sent as a messenger to his family to teach them the deen. So that's the difference of opinion there. But we have smaller number of messengers and a greater number of prophets. So for example, you can have multiple number of prophets at the same time. For example, Bani Israel, the Almighty Allah could give them 70 prophets at a time. In the city, they had 70 prophets at a time. And sometimes you have a couple of prophets, at the same time. For example, Ibrahim and Lot were living at the same time, and they were both messengers. And you can have like Musa and Harun, they were both sent, so they were messengers at the same time who were partners who were delivering the message. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the final of all the prophets. After him, no prophet is going to appear, and none has appeared. Any person you hear who says he's a prophet now, he's either a charlatan or he's a thief. He's just trying to, deprive people of their wealth. And then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is also the leader of the messengers. So he's the last in terms of chronology, but then he's the leader in terms of, position. أول ما يجب على المكلف. The first obligation upon the responsible one. Who is a responsible one in Islam? A responsible one is someone who has attained the age of puberty. For the males and then for the females. And you know that. And I encourage you to teach the younger ones these basic principles as and when they grow up. It is better for you, the mothers, for them to hear this from you than for them to see it on TikTok or Snapchat or Facebook. You know these things better. And I always say this, that the schools only give your kids information. Education is from the house, from the home. 1 + 1 = 2 is not education, it's information. So you need to have a deliberate, conscious effort in the nurturing of your children. And these rulings are very, very important in relation to the ibadah and the welfare of the younger ones. It's very, very, very important. Because puberty comes with it a lot of challenges, a lot of changes, a lot of questions. And this has led to a lot of challenges, especially in the Western world now, whereby because of lack of adequate parenting, when children are at the age of puberty, it creates a lot of, confusion for them. And this has opened the door for all forms of ideologies to be pushed down our throats because of some of these things. So as parents, I want to urge you, and especially as mothers, you need to have extra time to teach your kids, especially the females, what puberty is, how it sets in, and what are the challenges, and what are the legal requirements from the Sharia point of view of the rulings that, of the issues that puberty comes with. The onset of menstruation is a sign of puberty in girls, and then the onset of nocturnal emissions in boys is a sign of puberty in boys. But then there is a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam of Abdullah ibn Umar at the battle of I think Badr or Uhud, I'm not sure. At the battle of Badr or Uhud, he was 14 years old with a couple of his friends. And then they came out with weapons to go and join the war. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent them back home that they are too young to join. The following year, when the new battle came, and then they were 15 years, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed them to join. So the scholars are saying, so long as he allowed 15-year-old boys to join war where they could be killed, that it is a sign of maturity in them. So puberty in Islam is the onset for responsibility, where your good deeds will be written, you'll be rewarded, and then your bad deeds will also be marked. So that's number one. Another session or another side of the responsible person in Islam is that the person is of sound mind. This is a mark of responsibility. So for people who are mentally challenged in Islam, they are not obligated to go through acts of what? Act of ibadah. It is lifted upon them. They are not obligated. So someone who is of puberty, someone who is of a sound mind is responsible. This is the general rule or the general term. But then there are some other ibadah that bring in some extra criteria. For example, the fasting in the month of Ramadan brings with it some extra criteria. So for example, if you are well-to-do, you are healthy, then fasting becomes what? Compulsory upon you. But if you are terminally ill, then fasting is not what? It's not compulsory upon you. And there are other rulings to that. Inshallah, we'll come to that. When you come to zakat, if you have the nisab, The nisab is the amount of money your annual income must reach before zakat becomes obligatory upon you. You can check for us 85 grams of gold on the internet. When your annual income is 85 grams of gold, then zakat becomes compulsory on that money. So grams of gold, 85 grams of gold. So if you don't have 85 grams of gold, then you see you are not responsible for zakat. When you come to Hajj, you must have the provision to go to Hajj. If you don't have the provision to Hajj, then Hajj is not compulsory upon you. So you realize that every form of ibadah comes with its own criteria for what? For responsibility. But then the general responsibility for ibadah, for worship in Islam, is that first and foremost you are a Muslim. Then you are at the age of puberty, and then you also have sound mind. These three things are the main signs of responsibility in Islam. So he says the first obligation, he's telling you the first thing you must do, the first thing that is obligatory upon you as a responsible Muslim, he says, tashihu imanihi, which is to correct his faith. Your faith, your iman should be corrected. It is not enough for you to say La ilaha illallah. It's not enough. You need to guide and protect and renew the what? That faith. For example, you have driving licenses. You have to renew it from time to time, right? You have other things that you need to renew. If the police stop you and then it is expired, you face the consequences. So in Islam, you should always renew your iman. Yes, we'll come to that. First and foremost, we must know what is iman. What is faith in Islam? Iman is kullu ma waqara fil qalb. Anything that has a seat in the heart. وَصَدَّقَهُ الْقَوْلُ وَالْعَمَلُ. And then your statements and your actions emphasize what is in the heart. So Islam, Iman is not like me, I'm a mu'min, it is in my heart. No. It's in your heart, but then it must also manifest outside your body. So there's nothing like, I am a non-practicing Muslim. For me, I don't understand that term. I'm a Muslim, but I don't practice. I don't understand. They always say it, but I don't understand it. That I'm a Muslim, but I'm not practicing. I feel you are just being negligent. But that, we should be careful not to erode Iman away from them. The fact that the person says, I'm a Muslim, let's encourage. Let's not, downgrade or denigrate or throw the person out. No, the person says he's a Muslim, but then he's not practicing. It might mean that it's just some form of laziness or some form of ignorance or some form of, not understanding what Iman really means. So Iman is what is in your heart, and it is manifest on what? On your body and outside. Iman, the fragrance of Iman is seen outside. The fragrance of Iman is seen outside. So whatever we do, whatever we say we believe in our heart, Islam has for us actions that are going to depict what is in the heart. I hope you get it. For example, you go to exams, the students amongst you go to exams, and then they give you the paper and the answer sheet, and then you don't answer. And then the examiner or the lecturer asks you, why didn't you answer? And you tell the lecturer that all your knowledge is in your head. No need for you to put it on paper. You're not going to pass. So in Islam, it's the same thing, that whatever you say is in your heart should manifest in what? In your day-to-day activity. So you realize that Islam has a lot of rituals. 5 daily prayers, fasting in the month of Ramadan, sadaqah, giving sadaqah, going to Hajj, going to Umrah, even our dress code is all part of it. Our day-to-day activities with each other, how we meet each other. Even the Prophet Muhammad said, "Tabassumuka fi wajhi akhika sadaqa." Even to meet your brother and then or your sister and then you smile in their faces, an act of worship. So Islam is not what is hidden in your heart, it's what is in your heart and what manifests in your day-to-day activities. So how do we correct this faith? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Jaddidu imanakum. He told the Sahaba, always renew your iman. Always renew it. And they said, Kaifa nujaddid imanana ya Rasulullah. How do we renew our faith? He said, Akthiru min qawli la ilaha illallah. Always try as much as possible to increase your saying of la ilaha illallah. Your tongue should always be wet with la ilaha illallah. And as your tongue is wet with la ilaha illallah, your heart should also connect with that la ilaha illallah. And your body parts should connect with that la ilaha illallah. It's not enough for you to say la ilaha illallah with your mouth, but then your heart is negligent of what la ilaha illallah. And the rest of your body is not in what? Is not in unison with what? With la ilaha illallah. Dhikr is very important. But dhikr has a lot of components. And the component is that الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ. As you say La ilaha illallah, you must imagine the might and the power of the Almighty Allah. As you say La ilaha illallah, you must believe that it's only the Almighty Allah who has the power to give or to take away. As you say La ilaha illallah, you must understand that your life is being guided by the Almighty Allah. As you say La ilaha illallah, you must try as much as possible to eschew whatever the Almighty Allah says don't do. As you say La ilaha illallah, you must be humble to carry yourself throughout this life. As you say La ilaha illallah, you must take your time and then do things according to how the Almighty Allah wants. So you can't say La ilaha illallah and then you are doing wrong. You can't say La ilaha illallah and then you are disobeying the Almighty Allah. It means that your La ilaha illallah has a problem. It means you need to what? Renew that La ilaha illallah. It means you need to review that La ilaha illallah. It means you need to have a second look at what La ilaha illallah is. So it's very, very important as we start fiqh, we look at aqidah and tawheed in our hearts. It's very, very important. We live in very troubling and challenging times. It's true. We live in times that is very difficult. Especially in the Western world that we find ourselves, it's not easy. People have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. People have the freedom to express whatever they want to express. So if you don't safeguard your beliefs and then your identity, other people's beliefs and identity will trample upon yours, and then in the end, you find out that you've given up and then you are absorbing other people's thoughts and other people's lifestyles. We have an identity as Muslims. The number one identity as Muslims is that let's understand that everything that runs around in this dunya is by the will of the Almighty Allah. And I'm saying this particularly to you, our sisters, because of the challenges that women face in the world now. It's not easy to be a woman. And I don't envy you at all. Now they expect you to be a mother. They expect you to be a wife. They expect you to be a career woman. They expect you to be an alarm clock, a cook, a laundry, a driver, a counselor. They expect you to be everything. Now they're even expecting you to be men. It's not easy. It's tough. So if you don't have a guiding spiritual principle to take you around, you break down. If you don't have that, if you don't have a quiet time with the Almighty Allah, if you don't have a covenant with the Almighty Allah, that the Almighty Allah guide you, it's not easy. When a child becomes a good child, it belongs to everybody. But when a child goes bad, it is yours. That's very, very traumatizing. That's very, very challenging. So I always say this to sisters, mothers, wallahi, always have that strong connection with the Almighty Allah. Of all the challenges, of all the troubles, the husband is giving you problems, the kids are being difficult, your workplace is very, very demanding, you are the one who is going to wake up early in the morning, prepare the kids for school, and then you also prepare yourself for your job. You're supposed to come back home, prepare the meal for the man. You will come and wash 10 fingers and put in 5 into the food. And even if there is too much little salt, you complain that, oh, today the salt is too much. He doesn't appreciate what you're doing. He always has comments. He always has, suggestions. He doesn't see the good that you're doing. It's very challenging. It's very, very traumatizing. I say, try and have a covenant with the Almighty Allah in this. Wallahi, the Almighty Allah will see you through. Have a strong sense of Iman. Your husband might not be worse than Firaun. He might not be worse than Firaun. But Asiya lived with him. And she was able to get to Jannah even though through all those challenging and trying times. I'm not justifying what some men are doing. No, I'm not justifying that. I'm only giving you the solution. That if you stand with the Almighty Allah, wallahi, the Almighty Allah will make a way for you. It's very, very important. It's very, very traumatizing. It's very, very psychological draining. I know. Because you call us. This is what is going on. Imam, can you look into this? Can you look into this? What advice will you give? Yes. Sometimes some of the stories that some women narrate to us, it sounds like it is Hollywood. It sounds like it's a movie. But that is the reality that some women find themselves in. So, Iman, wallahi, is very, very important. Stand firm with the Almighty Allah. Get closer to the Almighty Allah. Your azkar is very, very important. Your nafila is very, very important. Your reading of the Quran is very, very important. If you can't read the Quran because of your limitations, you have all these reciters on YouTube. Go there. Make sure that your home is always filled with Quran reading. Wallahi, the Almighty Allah will make a way. So, tashihu imanihi, renewal of the iman and correction of the iman is the work of all of us. And as males too, we need to correct our iman. All of us need to do that. And this statement is very profound because each and every one of us is struggling with his iman. All of us. I might be here, the Sheikh speaking, and it is possible that one of you, or even all of you, is better than me in the sight of the Almighty Allah. It's a possibility. The fact that I'm a male doesn't mean that at the end of the day, I have some superiority over you. No. It's not like Islam doesn't work that way. Let me give you a clear example. Me who is sitting here and teaching you, and Aisha, the wife of the Prophet Muhammad, who is better? Aisha. That settles the score. So when you strive harder, when you worship the Almighty Allah more than I do, you have a better standing in front of the Almighty Allah. Even if I have all these books in my head, I have all these verses, all these hadith in my head, the Almighty Allah doesn't work that way. Inna Allah la yanzuru ila ajsamikum wa la ila suwarikum walakin yanzuru ila qulubikum wa a'malikum. The Almighty Allah doesn't look at our body size. He doesn't look at our beauty. He doesn't look at how nice we are. He looks at what is in our heart and what kind of deeds that we do. What is in your heart and what kind of deeds you do is what the Almighty Allah is going to weigh us upon. So it's important that we have what Iman is. So Iman, we said what is in your heart, and then your body part, and then your activities manifest that. Iman is in categories. There's a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad where he said, Al-Imanu bid'un wa sab'una shu'ba. Iman is about 70 something parts. The highest one is La ilaha illallah. And then the lowest one is clearing an evil off the way of people. So maybe you find a banana peel. Someone might step on it and slip and fall. If you taking that banana peel from that pavement and putting it in trash is a sign of Iman, according to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You find something harmful on the part of people and clearing it so that people will not get hurt is the sign of Iman. So you realize that Iman is not only what is in the heart, it's also what the activities that we do. So sometimes you find that some people might not be as religious as some people, but then their mannerisms, their character is very beautiful. And then you find out some people are very religious. They come to the masjid 5 times, they do whatever they are supposed to do, but then when they open their mouth to you, it's like poison. So it means that you must what? You must blend the two. Isn't that you are good with the Almighty Allah, you are nice with the Almighty Allah, but then your character with other people stinks? No. There's a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad where he said, Atadruna manil muflis. Do you know the most corrupt and the most bankrupt person in my ummah? And the Sahaba are like, Ya Rasulullah, someone who doesn't have anything in his pocket. He said, no, that's not that person. The most bankrupt person in Islam is someone who will come on the day of judgment. He has prayed Salah on time. She's done Hajj. She's done all the good things. The Almighty Allah weighs her good things and He tells the angels, escort her to Jannah. And then someone will raise an objection. Ya Allah, I have a problem with this sister. When we were in the masjid, she took my phone and took it away. Or when we were doing this, she cheated me. She sold me an old dress, saying that it is a new dress, and then she charged me with the price of the new dress. Or she sold me rotten tomatoes. At the bottom were rotten tomatoes, and on top are fresh tomatoes. And then the Almighty Allah will say, bring her back. They will bring her back, and then all the people that she cheated, all the people that she frauded, all the people that she oppressed in this dunya will form a queue. And then her good deeds will be taken from her and given to them according to the oppressions she oppressed them. It will get to a point whereby all her good deeds are finished. But then the people she oppressed are not finished. They're still waiting for their rights. What happens now? Their bad deeds will be taken from there and then given to her. What happens? At the end, she is someone who has a good relationship with the Almighty Allah, but because she has a very bad relationship with people, she's going to go to Jahannam because of that. So it's very, very important. Don't think that you are an island alone, that you have only relationship with the Almighty Allah. Everybody else is just bogus. You can do whatever you want to do. Don't forget that woman who the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they said, Ya Rasulullah, she prays 5 times. She fasts a lot. She prays at night. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, La khayra fiha. There's no good in her. They say, Ya Rasulullah, how is there no good in her when she prays 5 times? She does all these good things. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there's no good in her because she oppresses her neighbors. Her words, her acts, her deeds oppresses her neighbors. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there's no good in her. Don't also forget the hadith of that woman who prays regularly, she fasts regularly, she does all the good things regularly, but then she tied a cat and didn't allow the cat to go and look for food, and then she didn't feed the cat. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the Almighty Allah is going to question her on that. So Iman in Islam is not what I have in my heart or what I have with the Almighty Allah alone. No, the whole ecosystem, the whole environment, your relationship with Almighty Allah, your relationship with yourself, and relationship with what? With other members of the community, human beings, animals, trees. All these things come into play. So Iman is a very broad issue. That is why I've taken my time to speak about it. And this might even be what we're going to speak about today, Iman. But then there are pillars of Iman. Belief in the Almighty Allah, belief in the angels, belief in the prophets, belief in the books, belief in the last day, and then belief in predestination, in destiny. These are the 6 key pillars of Iman. You believe in the Almighty Allah. Everything that runs in the world is by the will of the Almighty Allah. Secondly, you believe in the angels. You believe in them. They are not God's children. They are not secretaries to the Almighty Allah. They are servants to the Almighty Allah. And the Almighty Allah created them to serve Him. Not that He needed servants, or not that the things that they are doing He cannot do, but no, He is showing His majesty, His power, His might. These are the angels. There are a lot of them, thousands, millions of angels. But Jibril is the leader. We know of 4 or a number of them. Jibril, Mikael, Asrafil, and the Malakul Maut.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم صلاة القرآن يأتي محمد وسيلة رضيت بالله So we are saying that Iman has 6 pillars from the hadith of Jibreel. Believe in the Almighty Allah, that everything that goes on the dunya is through the will and the power of the Almighty Allah. Believe in the angels. We have Jibreel, we have Mikael, we have Israfil. The name Azrael has not appeared in any authentic hadith from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We only have Malakul Maut, the angel of death. That's the authentic name. It's even in the Quran. كُلْ يَتَوَفَّاكُمْ مَلَكُ الْمَوْتِ الَّذِي وُكِّلَ بِكُمْ. But then in our local parlance, we have Azrael. But in actual sense, we don't have any authentic narration or hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions Malakul Maut as Azrael. But we have Jibreel, we have Mikael, we have Israfil. And then we have Munkar wa Nakir in the grave. And then we have Malik, who is the guardian of hellfire and stuff like that. So these are the angels. And I believe in the books. The Almighty Allah from time to time revealed books through prophets. And a number of them are mentioned in the Quran, At-Tawrah, Al-Zabur, Al-Injil, Suhuf Ibrahim. These are mentioned in the Quran. And then believe in the messengers, as we've already spoken about them. Believe in the last day, Yawm al-Akhir, Yawm al-Qiyamah. Believe in Yawm al-Qiyamah that is going to happen. And then finally believe in destiny, that the Almighty Allah preordains everything that is going to happen. Maybe inshallah in the next class we'll look at these pillars of Iman into detail, because it's very, very important. This is our identity as Muslims, and we need to pay close attention to it. I think I'm going to let's use the next 10 minutes for your questions. I know you have questions, and inshallah next week we'll look at the pillars of Iman, and then we continue. I want us to take our time in going through the book, because the book is an abridged version. It's a summary, so we need to break it down into pieces, because one word has a lot of information in there. Jazakumullahu khairan, barakallahu feekum. If you have any questions. Now,
you spoke about Hajj. If you're going to Hajj, you have to gather provision.
yes.
Okay, what do you mean by provision?
If you're going to Hajj, you must gather provisions, meaning you must have enough resources on you, enough money to go. If you don't have that money to go to Hajj, it's not compulsory upon you. That is number one. Number two, you are under debt. You owe people money. Don't take their monies to Makkah. You need to pay people's debts. Don't go and come and then you owe people money. No. We know a lot of people who do that. They go and then go put all those golden teeth in their mouth, and then they come back and then they are hiding from the public because they took people's money to Hajj. Of course, because if you owe me money and then I heard that you've gone to Makkah, when you come back, I'll look for you to collect my money. So you don't do that. And then you don't bankrupt yourself to go to Hajj. For example, the Almighty Allah said, "Liman istata'a ilayhi sabila," for the person who has the means to go. So if you don't have the means, the Almighty Allah doesn't need you there. He doesn't require you to be there. Are you listening to me, sisters?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said you're not supposed to go to Hajj when we are there.
Yes.
And she asked me, like, for instance, we do susu.
Mm-hmm.
So we gather money together, like, so one person with an Ishmael.
No.
And if you pay it before the sushi is not over, it's like you are credit people money.
No.
So she asked me if she can collect that money and go to the Hajj. Therefore,
Okay, you
I'm
do
going to
susu.
ask you.
You do susu, and then I know, hey, you women, you like money. You.
No, you see, like, now this country.
I understand. It's just by the way. I know. Some of you joined 3 or 4 susu group. I know.
No, I don't do that.
I know some of you. I said some of you. I understand what you mean. That, for example, you are a group of sisters, and every month you have some donations that you put together so that you give it to one person to start up her business or to help her. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
What I mean is that you are highly indebted.
Yes.
No, let's talk about the
No, let me finish.
Okay.
Hey, women and money. You do your susu, and then they give one person the money, and then you decide to use that money to go to Makkah, and then you come back, you still continue paying people their money. What we are saying is that is not haram. There's nothing wrong with that. But then the idea is that the Almighty Allah doesn't require you to come to Makkah if you don't have the means to come to Makkah. If you cannot afford, don't force it on your head. So the susu is a very brilliant idea to help you have startup businesses. It's very beautiful. But then to do susu, to go to Makkah, I cannot say you don't have Hajj, but then it is not an advisable way to go to Makkah. Because at the end of the day, you come back to Philadelphia and then you don't have nothing. You have nothing.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is wrong. That is why the Almighty Allah said, "Liman istata'a ilayhi sabila." Only if you have the means, you go to Makkah and come back and continue your business. In as much as all of us want to go to Makkah, every Muslim wants to go to Hajj. Every Muslim loves that. But then the Almighty Allah didn't ordain that every Muslim will go to Hajj. There is an Imam by name Imam al-Baghawi. Imam al-Baghawi is a very famous Imam. He has a book, Sharh al-Sunnah, where it's one of the most profound books. But Imam Baghawi was a poor man. He never went to Hajj. But then up to today, we are mentioning his books. We are reading his books, Imam al-Baghawi. So yes, Hajj is very, very important. But then don't force yourself and create uncomfortable situations and conditions for yourself, and then you go to Hajj, and then you come back, and then you are still borrowing money from people to pay your rent, to pay your bills. You are still borrowing money. No. Islam is not a religion that forces you to do that. That is why the Almighty Allah was very, very clear. Liman istata'a ilayhi sabila. For someone who has the means to go. If you don't have the means, fatawakkal ala Allah. Rely upon the Almighty Allah. But then don't force yourself. Don't go and take loans to go to Makkah, and then you come and then when we don't find you, you've moved from Philadelphia, you've gone to Newark.
This is very easy. So why don't you stay in the susu and let the susu finish? Then you can save your money and go to the
Yes. So save your money and go to your Hajj. But then don't use other people's money. And then you know very well that even in the Makkah, you are doing labbaik Allahumma labbaik. You are taking care of the people waiting for you. Of course, that's also very important. You are not sure that you are coming back, because wallahi, owing people is a very dangerous thing to do in Islam. Because listen, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one day, anytime the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to pray on a dead person in his salah, he asks them, does he have a debt? If they say yes, he has a debt, he doesn't pray. He doesn't pray on the person. He says someone else should pray. Because his prayer is a form of intercession for the person. So he says, no, someone should pray. So one day he came to do a janaza, and then he asked, does he owe money? And he said, yes, he owes 2 dirhams. And the Prophet Muhammad said, no, I'm not going to pray. And one of the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm going to pay that dirham. I'm going to pay. And the Prophet Muhammad prayed for him. After a couple of days, the Prophet Muhammad met the person. He said, have you paid the debt? He said, not yet, Ya Rasul. The Prophet Muhammad said, his soul is still hanging until he paid that debt. The next time he met him, did you pay the debt? He said, yes, Ya Rasulullah, I've paid the debt. The Prophet Muhammad said, he's now free. So, wallahi, some people, it's not only women. Some people, they come to you for debt. You give them the money, pay. He doesn't want to pay. He doesn't want to pay. You say, okay, fine. I'll leave you with Allah. He said, no problem. We'll meet at Qiyamah. So it's a very dangerous statement to make.
I used to be a silent person. I go to overseas, I buy goods and sell to my sisters in the shop around. None of them didn't pay my money.
Subhanallah.
None of them. They don't even care. Like even sometimes they come and take your cash and they will say, I will tell you when I get my money, they will never. And when you call them, they don't even pick up your phone.
Oh, don't worry, you have a bank account waiting for you in the
Some
Qiyamah.
of them I forgive it. Like if you know you cannot afford, I say forgive it.
Okay.
Some of them, I know they can afford, they just don't want to pay. That's one I did not forgive.
Okay, my sister, your question.
If someone owes you money and you forgive them, is their soul still hanging to their tree?
No, if someone owes you money and then you forgive them, you're forgiving them.
Yes.
That's forgiving. That's a different thing altogether. You're forgiving them. Now,
Does there need to be a conversation between you and them? Or can it just be like,
you can choose to. You can choose to let them know I've forgiven this debt, or you can choose to keep it between you and the Almighty Allah. That, oh ya Allah, I've forgiven this person, and it's a covenant between me and you, Almighty Allah, so that you also forgive me on the day of Qiyamah. Sometimes try and do good things without letting people know, even if that person is involved. Even if you're going to do it to a person, try as much as if you can do it, because don't forget the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said 7 groups of people will be under the shade of Qiyamah, on the day of Qiyamah, where there is no shade, and amongst them he said a person who gives out sadaqah, and then his left hand doesn't know what the right hand has given. It means that you do sadaqah, or you do good, or you do something nice in a way that the next person next to you doesn't even know. That is ikhlas, and then concealing it. So that's a very good thing to do, that, oh, you've forgiven the person, but you don't tell the person. Later the person comes and says, oh, this is back your money. He said, no, I've already forgiven you. Use that money to what? To help yourself in another way. And then don't forget, if you give sadaqah, you have 10 times the reward. But when you give a loan, you have 19 times the reward. If you give a loan, you have 19 times the reward. Do you know why? Because the loans are sometimes huge. They are big. Sadaqah maybe is $10, $5, $15. But then someone comes to you, I'm in need, I need $1,000. And then you also have the money, but why will I give him the money? The courage to take out the money and give them, you have extra reward than someone who is giving sadaqah out of his own free will. And the other thing is that there is risk in the loan. The person might default. So Islam, the Almighty Allah, in encouraging us, in helping each other, gives us more reward when we give out loans to each other. When I say loans, according to what? The Sharia, not the conventional loans that we are speaking about, that the other loans. As for that one, don't go near them. Safeguard your place. Yes.
Okay, if it that like when we're talking about the commercial loan that given to, let's say a student, is it good to take the loan?
May the Almighty Allah safeguard us from all riba loans. That's the only thing I can say on that. It's you see, riba, interest. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the calamity of riba, the smallest one, is like someone who sleeps with his own mother in the Kaaba. That is how dangerous it is. But then you live in a country whereby this is what is going on. So unless in dire necessity, that there is no way, there's nothing you can do about it. And this, there is no way, it is individual specific. So sometimes some of this fatwa, I don't do it publicly. I don't say it publicly. It's individual specific. But the best thing is try and find alternative means that you will not saddle yourself with interest for the rest of your life. That's it. Because apart from you being someone's slave for the next 30, 40, 50 years, you, your soul, yourself, you know you are not at peace. And then secondly, you have issue with Almighty Allah. So it's a very dicey situation. And I don't want us to, because the moment we start speaking, we open up a lot of doors, a lot of cans and worms. I don't want us to do that. But I always pray, if someone asks me that question, I ask the Almighty Allah to grant you an alternative that is better than the loans and then the interest. May the Almighty Allah safeguard us from that. I think it's almost time for prayer. But one last question. Then. Yes, my sister.
Is it permissible to travel alone by yourself, like out of the country?
Yes, the default position is that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Islam doesn't allow a woman to travel alone without a mahram, without a male companion, either her husband, her father, her brother, her uncle, or her son. That's the default position. But then there's also a hadith from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says that a woman will travel from Hira to Mecca all alone she will only, if she has anything to fear, she will only fear the Almighty Allah and the wolves on the road. So scholars have brought these two hadiths together to say that yes, there are circumstances and conditions whereby a woman can travel alone if the path is safe, if there's not going to be any harassment, if she's not going to be, she's not going to be disturbed from her religion. So for example, now Muslim women can travel anywhere in the world so long as it's for the right travel. It's okay, there's nothing wrong. She can travel outside the country. She can go to Hajj alone because of this hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But then the default position by almost all the fuqaha, the fiqh scholars, is that yes, she's not supposed to travel alone. But then circumstances and conditions can happen whereby she must travel alone and she can travel alone. For example, if you're going to go to Hajj and then you have the means, and then your husband or you don't have the means for 2 or 3 people to go with you, that becomes a burden. You can go alone, especially now that we have from the house to the airport into the flights to it's safe. It's safe. I think my mother was going to ask that question.
Yeah, if you want to make hijrah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
One last question.
Okay, one last question before they come out.
Is how can I say it? It's like right now, my mind is telling me something. It's like I done something, or I said something in a long time and I didn't know.
No.
Or I wasn't wise enough at that time. So, and right now I'm thinking about something is happening right now. I'm thinking about is it what I said before? And because sometimes they can say if you're talking, you don't know what angel is going or what when Allah may say Amin, or I don't know. Maybe my mind is telling me.
No, you see, there's one thing. Let's understand something, that in Islam, we are not held accountable or responsible for things that we did unknowingly, things that we did unintentionally. We are not held accountable for that. And then this concept of karma is not in Islam. That we don't know that karma. We don't know that in Islam. What we know is that you will be rewarded for your good deeds, and that you'll be punished for your bad deeds. And then in the bad deeds too, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Rufi'at al-aqlam ala thalatha," that there are 3 people that the Almighty Allah has taken away the pen. Someone who is asleep, they don't write bad deeds, they don't write good deeds for you. Someone who has mental issues, no bad deed, no good for you.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Inshallah, we'll
أشهد
continue
أن
another time.
لا إله إلا الله